child that's born addicted to drugs. Okay. A child is born addicted to crack. Okay. Crack cocaine is suffering non-stop from the moment of birth. If Allah is so merciful, how do you explain this?
I think that is
awesome.
Sound effect now.
Yeah.
Maybe the alternative existence for that child, if it wasn't born that way, would have been worse, so it's a mercy. And then maybe he or she is a mercy for his or her parents because they're able to find God or meaning through their...
Okay, so one possibility is the other option could have been worse, right?
Yeah,
Okay.
like Charles Manson.
I
He was
think...
gonna grow up
Oh,
to
it
be
could have grown
Charles
up to Charlotte.
Yeah,
think
which is
also
way
have
worse.
Oh, what was the person online saying?
Oh, sorry. I didn't know that someone was speaking. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's all good.
But on the one hand, there are times when an act of suffering may reduce suffering later or maybe use to expiate suffering later.
Okay.
But also there are times when we don't understand the purpose of the suffering, like in the discussions of Mozaffar, where you don't understand why a thing is happening, but it has a greater purpose at a future time.
Okay, so it could be that the suffering is just beyond our comprehension in terms of the wisdom of it. Okay, what are you going to say?
That's what I was going to say, that it's like divine wisdom that you can't comprehend.
Okay, okay.
Maybe there is a test for the parents.
Okay. Okay, so maybe the suffering's a test?
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. I mean, it's, we were told that this life is a test. I mean, it's not, to just have merry and, entertainment and enjoyment. So that is an extreme case of something that we would probably struggle with, but I think it's ultimately a test even for the ones who witness it.
Okay, okay. Your thoughts? How do you explain suffering if Allah is so merciful? Yes.
So I feel like it's a matter of like the intrinsic nature of the person. So like if they're the type of person who, if they have a weakness of like I don't know, going astray with wealth, then you're tested with wealth.
Okay.
And if your weakness is suffering, then you're tested with suffering.
Okay.
Maybe. So that is like the hardest thing for you.
Okay.
So maybe somebody, if they were wealthy and really good, that would not be a challenge for them. They would still be able to find Allah. But if the real challenge would be suffering.
Okay.
And maybe their test is in proportion to, or even like multiplied in reward in the akhirah, if they are to pass it. So he's actually like rewarding them by giving him that suffering because the stakes are higher.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I guess suffering is kind of like learning because because like other people say, it's like a test. So if you fail the test, then you made a mistake.
Okay.
And everyone says you learn from your mistakes.
Okay.
So later on, you might be presented with a test that is similar.
Okay.
So then Allah could test you to see if you learned from the previous test.
Okay. Okay. Sure. Test upon test. Yeah.
Well, I would pose provocatively that suffering technically doesn't exist.
Okay.
Suffering is our perception of
whatever.
Suffering is whatever our perception of what just is reality.
Okay.
Because if you
let him finish his point.
So if you let's take a billionaire
the scene
trust.
that I see right now.
Right.
Here's Omer sitting here so relaxed. He's surrounded by all these women who are staring.
And I'm suffering. Right? Like woe unto me.
I agree with you.
Right?
I agree with you.
Yeah.
I was thinking
So let's
that
take
as well.
the millionaire trust fund baby kid, right?
That's true.
And he has all the comforts of life, no worldly struggle as we would think, but he doesn't have the prestige of his dad, and he commits suicide and suffering.
We're just talking about a specific example that he gave of a kid that was born suffering with crack addiction and in pain from the moment of birth.
My point was the perception thing. Like, I'm sorry, I know the tree thing was done to death, but when we talked about it, does a tree make a sound if no one hears it? But I think for the example for the baby, it's not the baby is not. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to take care of that baby, and when that baby dies, that baby is going straight to heaven. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is that is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's jurisdiction. That is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's ward, I would almost say. I don't know how to say it better,
it's his authority.
it's I mean, this baby is going straight to heaven. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to take care of this baby. So really the suffering of that baby is, like, it's the people around it, the people who care for it. So that's who the suffering is really, you know, coming for. And
but
so,
still, we're talking about a baby who is suffering from addiction, from pain. And we're saying non-stop.
Yeah, so that's what I'm like. That is.
I'm saying
crazy.
that I agree that there's some types of suffering that are perception, right? So, you know, I break my pen, I start crying. You know, Omer, he starts crying. He starts crying when I break my pen, right? Okay, some of that is perception. But here we're talking about physical pain, excruciating pain, and I can't say to the baby, you know, this is your perception, right? Yeah.
No, I was going to say that. I think I think it has to do. You can think of it as blind faith, the concept of blind faith.
Okay.
So you know, you could question so many things in the world and say, well, why was I born Muslim and not somebody else? Like, why do I deserve it? Or like, you know, you see somebody who is like just a heinous human being, but they have a great life, you know. Or so it's like always the really nice people who get cancer, you know. But if you start questioning these things and trying to find like the reasoning behind it, you'll just run in circles and drive yourself nuts.
Okay.
But to have true like blind faith is to say, I know that my Creator is merciful. I know that He is, and He's the most just. And the scales will not be balanced in the dunya. So I have to know, as a fact, that they will be in the akhirah. And there's, you know, He's merciful. It's just accepting it. Maybe.
Okay. Yeah.
Going
I notice you always talk after she does. I wonder if there's something going on.
Well,
she doesn't know. Let me tell you.
Going along with what she said, how the good people, I guess, get cancer is because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is just. So whatever pain that good people have in this life, He'll take away in the next life.
Okay.
Love it.
So if someone, I guess, is in a lot of pain, such as like the baby that you talked about, in this life, he will have less like suffering in the next life.
Okay, so from our understanding, this baby dies at year 1 after 24/7 nonstop pain and suffering. What happens to this baby? Straight to paradise, right? So then can I complain, let's say I live to age 100, okay? And let's say my verdict is that I go to hell, okay? Can I complain to Allah Ta'ala, well, why don't you just make me die at age 1?
No.
Why?
Because your path was different, and you can't compare yourself to another person's path.
Okay, why? So here you have a baby.
Because that's the unseen.
But we're saying this baby, from the perspective of Akhirah, this baby had the best case scenario, right? This baby suffered in dunya the worst possible suffering, yet in Akhirah is in paradise. So isn't that then unfair? For me, I had to work for 100 years and then I went in the wrong direction. Why can't I complain to Allah Ta'ala and say, you know, you should have taken my life at 10 or at 5?
Because you had 100 years or 99 years to go ahead and try
Yeah.
to make it work in your favor.
Okay, good.
And
Yes.
I think there's like a certain amount of belief that you have that like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is just, and He knows, He gives people the chance to make the decision. He says like, you know, there is a chance for you to make that decision to believe. Like there's like all those ayahs about like, you know, you could tell them like 1,000,000 years, 1,000,000 times. Yeah. You could show them everything. If angels came down, they would be like, oh, these people are angels. So like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, I think, says in the Quran like many times that the people who disbelieve, like, they're gonna disbelieve. Yeah. There's a choice that they're making. Yeah. So I think the 100-year person example is kind of like, you know, there's a connection there where, yeah, maybe even if they had died at 10 or whatever other situation, like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows where their heart, what choice their heart was going to make.
And also for Allah to send somebody to hell, I mean, the scale needs to be really bad. I mean, it's not like
he's given us like, okay, if you
But
failed
isn't it
by
like
1
this?
point.
What if it's like this?
If you failed by 1 point, yeah, you still, failed. That's
Isn't
not
that
how it is.
But
you
isn't
know?
that what it says?
No, it's not because
I think that's what it says.
no,
It
but
doesn't say
but for all of
this. I think it says
for
if
His
it's
mercy,
this.
Like
but
every
His
little-
mercy, like we don't
Yeah.
ever deserve, even with our own actions, even with worshiping 100 years, just the blessing of sight will not even repay back
Yeah.
whatever He's given us. So He's actually given us so much mercy, even for the ones who are granted Jannah. It's not because they actually deserved it
Yeah.
or because they worked for it,
Yeah.
but people that have done heinous crimes and that have gone above and beyond all of the signs and all of the chances, and they are still, evil, and they just still pursue the path of wrong. I mean, for me, it's just, for somebody to go to hell, it has to be, completely just out of the question.
Okay. So let me ask this. How many people, according to teachings traced to the prophet, peace be upon him, how many people out of 1,000 are going to hell?
Like 990.
999 out of every
Okay,
1,000.
that is one opinion? That is
No,
one
this
of the-
is a teaching attributed to the prophet.
Okay, are there other ones that...
I mean, there's a lot of...
She doesn't like that one. She wants to pick a different
Hell,
hadith.
No, because
Yeah.
sometimes
And
the
it's gonna be
prophet has
people
different,
later.
translations, and then you're like, oh yeah, but then he also said on this other time, blah, 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 and they're like, okay,
Wait,
well,
doesn't that include like those like Jewish and not Jewish people, right?
I mean, how many could there possibly be?
Aren't there like a lot of them?
Enough.
There's there's not going to be like 20 billion of them, right?
Hey, I don't know.
Yeah.
I had a couple of things I wanted to say.
Okay.
So, just really quick. So, no, I'm like forgetting. But you know what's hard to comprehend is if you think about like this predestination thing. It's like so confusing because you don't know where Allah's predecision ends and your part begins.
Okay, then we'll talk about
You know what I'm
ayah
saying?
6 and 7.
Because then
Okay.
if Allah is so merciful, I'm prosing as if Allah is so merciful, then has He created somebody who is flawed,
This
and then
is part of the question, then.
yeah.
Right.
So that how do you make justice out of that?
it's still your
Okay.
choice.
So we will start
He
to
just knows
answer
a little
these questions, inshallah, next week.
No, it doesn't control it.
We have a week to think about this, inshallah.
We end up at cliffhanger so people come
Well,
back.
like, it's like obviously like your challenge
Yes.
is easy for me and my challenge would be easy for you. But you know what I'm saying? Like,
That
it's
would
just
be
confusing.
awesome.
So who's asking?
It's just confusing.
Alia's son, hang on, he has a question online. Go ahead. Voice, turn the volume up.
They can hear you, Najat.
Go ahead.
So,
No, it's
I know 1,000 people and 999 people go to hell. So why is it that includes the future and the past? And we're not sure how much of the future is there left.
Okay.
So that's a lot of people. So it's like saying 1 out of a billion people go to hell, basically.
We're saying the opposite.
Like,
A million out of a billion go to heaven. Yeah.
kind of. There's so many people in the world. Well, yeah, basically. Okay. There's just so many people in the world that there's a higher chance of you being able to go to heaven, don't you think?
Okay. Let me think about
The
this.
ratios are still the same though.
And then there's
Yeah.
you. Because right now we're at 7 billion.
Okay.
And
Okay, now we're all gonna do
then you have to
that.
include people that have died.
Are you saying that at the time that it was said, maybe it was that percentage for that period of time, but then over other periods of time, maybe it was a different
It can
percentage?
skew out, I'm
But
sure.
it's like,
Yeah.
it's all
Statistic.
humans go the population of every of the human. I don't know how to word this, but
Yeah, I think I know what you're saying.
beginning of time
Mhm.
to the end of time, and the human population is 1. And that's like a huge number,
Okay.
including dead people and newborns.
Okay.
A huge number of people.
She's
And
trying
then
to push one.
999 that go to hell, and 1,000 percentage. Wouldn't that be brings a lot more people go to heaven than we think?
Well, this would be the question. If the prophet, peace be upon him, is he referring to 999 out of 1,000 out of everyone who had ever lived, or the people who are alive at his time, or the people who are alive up to his time? Yeah, that would be a question.
Does that include like jinns, maybe?
Could be. We always have to have the jinn question.
Blame the gyms,
Okay.
send them all.
Nevertheless, we will continue this discussion, inshallah, next week. And you ready to give another presentation?
Well, how would we like